Talk to me about what's different at the RNC since the revamp and its relationship with the Trump campaign. What changes have you guys made and why?
Well, I think the first change, probably right out of the gate, people noticed is there was a big staff change at the RNC. So that was sort of our initial first day operation. And then since then, we've gone through every vendor, every contract. We want to make sure we're getting the best value for our dollar with everything. We also are looking at something that I think is top of mind for every American right now, which is election integrity, as really our highest and top priority. So if you come to the RNC, the bulk of the people actually working in that building right now are on our election integrity team. And we have a huge push across the country. We're going to have 100,000 volunteers for this election cycle. ProtectTheVote.com if anyone wants to come volunteer with us. And we're putting so many resources in that because we can never repeat 2020 and that election ever again. If we don't have free, fair, and transparent elections, quite frankly, nothing else really matters that we're doing in this country. And so we really are doing things much differently. We're also looking at things like legal ballot harvesting, which has never been done before. We also want to encourage people. Our messaging is a little different on voting. In the past, we know that traditionally Republicans like to vote on election day. What we are asking this election cycle is for people to vote early. Bank your vote is what we say. Get out there, vote as early as you can in whatever way you can, and then use your time from that day up until election day to take people with you, because we cannot leave this to chance. Life happens. If you wait till election day, you never know. And so we want to make sure that people are hearing that message loud and clear. And then you ask about the Trump campaign and the RNC. I can say this, having been part of, now this is my third presidential campaign cycle, cannot believe that. Previously, the RNC, of course, worked alongside the campaign, but we were never one cohesive unit. And the great thing right now is that we truly have merged both of those entities into one. So that means we have one person doing one job for both groups. We are not wasting money on extraneous employees or people that we don't need. And we are laser focused on the task at hand. So it just gives us a lot more strength and a lot more ability to charge forward to November 5th with everything, all the wind in our sails, all the money behind us. And so we are working and firing on all cylinders.
So what has the response been so far from conservatives when you're telling them, go ahead, vote early or vote by mail, that kind of stuff?
Well, I think people are naturally reluctant to it because it sort of goes against what they heard 4 years ago, right? And in previous election cycles. And I understand why people feel that way. Look, what happened in 2020 with a lot of the mail-in voting was awful, but we are working really hard right now to ensure that voter rolls are cleaned up across this country, that states that just mail out ballots are not sending them out to people who no longer live in those locations. We really are doing everything we possibly can to ensure that people feel comfortable doing that. Look, you look at places like Arizona, for example. Carrie Lake likely would have won her election because we know the margin there was very, very slim. There was one polling location that went down on election day. People probably remember it was in a Republican district, lines around the block for people to get in and vote. And because that polling location went down, how many people didn't ultimately go in and vote? Nevada, there was an ice storm recently in an election. People were not able to go vote. So we know life happens. And what we want people to understand is that going to vote early, your vote will count. And we need to make it too big to rig. If you get your vote in, you know it's in there, and then you can spend your time encouraging other people to go vote as well.
Switching gears a little bit, whether it's true or not, people say Trump has a hard time winning over suburban women. Following the jury verdict and the labels that the radical left and Democrats are trying to put on your father-in-law, do you think that that's going to hurt Trump's chances with suburban women? Is it going to help? Is it going to change? And is that even true that he's struggling with suburban women?
Well, I think what suburban women are looking at right now are their kids and their families, and they're saying it is much harder to put food on the table for my family. It's much harder to go to the grocery store and make my dollar stretch. It's much harder to fill up my gas tank. I don't feel safe taking my kids places. I don't feel safe as a woman walking certain places anymore in my community. Those are real life issues. And I think they're much more concerned with that than they are any label ever put on Donald Trump, anything that he may have tweeted in the past. And I think it's why you've seen a huge shift in his direction, even following the jury verdict. And we know that folks in the mainstream media are going to love to call Donald Trump a convicted felon. It's literally been the only thing they've been banking on. Obviously, it's not working because his poll numbers just after the verdict have actually gone up. You saw a 5 or 6 point increase in his polling after that. And so whether it's suburban women, whether it's black voters, Hispanic voters, Everyone's life is suffering right now, and people want to get back to normalcy. They want their country back. They want their life back. They want peace agreements in the Middle East instead of wars in the Middle East. And they know who brought it to them, and I believe that's why they're going to go out and vote for Donald Trump.
So what do you think about them setting the sentencing date days before the RNC convention?
Oh, isn't that convenient?
Right.
To put July 11th. It's funny to me with this particular case because you had multiple entities not bring it forward. The FEC said there's nothing here, we're not going to prosecute it. Cy Vance, the previous district attorney of Manhattan, said there's no merit here, I'm not going to prosecute this case. Alvin Bragg himself wouldn't prosecute the case until Donald Trump decided to run for president. He started gaining momentum, and they said, oh, we got to rush this case through so that it's right in the middle of an election cycle. So they jammed it in there, made sure that it happened. And now we've got to wait a month and a half, miraculously, for this sentencing. I hate to say that everything is orchestrated and planned, but it's hard to see it any other way. It's hard to see how all of this doesn't lead to one place, which is Washington, D.C. It's hard to see how this is not election interference. We don't know what this judge is going to rule in terms of what he'll do with my father-in-law. He's been very unfair from the beginning. He should have recused himself from this case from day one. And so, at the RNC and at the Trump campaign, we're just going to have to play it loose and see what he hands us. But the truth is, it ultimately doesn't matter because we will, no matter what he decides to do with Donald Trump, we'll make sure Donald Trump is the Republican nominee for president. He will accept that nomination, and we will move forward to November 5th.
So anyone else who would have as much thrown at them as Trump would probably be on the struggle bus right now. But at times, he really seems like invincible in a lot of ways. So can you tell us, how is he doing and how is he getting through day by day with all of this stuff coming against him?
I can't even tell you how impressed I am with this man on a daily basis. He's my father-in-law. And obviously that is, he holds a very dear place in my heart. But as just a human being, I don't know anyone who could not just survive the things that he's gone through, but be thriving and really still be fighting and still be willing to take more because there's going to be more coming his way. He truly has this incredible ability, I think, to distance himself from things like this and really focus on the things that matter. And I got to be honest, I've never seen him more focused on anything than he is right now on winning this election. I give him so much credit because I know that most people wouldn't be able to take it, but I think it is those moments, with his grandkids, with our children, that continue to inspire him to want to go on because he knows, and he said himself, this isn't about me. This is so much bigger than him. It's so much bigger than our family. This is about the future of this country and really the future of the world. And he wants a world where his grandchildren get to live in the same great America that he got to grow up in. And I think that sort of thing continues to inspire him, but I give him so much credit for the fight he has in him. He will never quit. He'll never back down no matter what they decide to do to him. He's really a miraculous human being.